Hi friends! Today I woke up very early, inspired to make this video. It's on something that I've been thinking about for quite a while now, so I guess today is the day. I'd like to call it Pluto Retrograde, the roads not taken, but it's also a reflection on roads taken. So I think Uranus entering Gemini has given me a bit of a push to make more content. But I'm not here to talk about Uranus today, but Pluto and specifically the Pluto retrograde that started on May 6th and will last until October 15th. So, a little bit of a background on Pluto. Um, Pluto in evolutionary and modern astrology is considered to be the higher octave of Mars. And what that means is, well, Mars represents our will, our ego, our desire to succeed, the warrior spirit in us. It's a very action-oriented planet, and it's our drive on our path. And Pluto is being the higher octave, is more the subconscious drive. You could say it's the soul's ego. In evolutionary astrology, it is considered to be representative of the soul itself. I like how Jeff Green puts it. He describes Mars as being a wave on the ocean and Pluto being the ocean. However, the spirit or soul is also a wave of energy. So Pluto is that wave coming from spirit. But the two work together, Mars and Pluto. So Mars is more, our everyday actions. When we're talking about roads, it's the mundane roads that we're taking every day. Whereas Pluto to me, in terms of roads, are these bigger life changing roads. When we come to a crossroads in life and we make a huge choice and it affects us for the rest of our life. That's the kind of roads that I'm talking about now. Um, so, personally, feeling I wanted to talk about uh, Pluto because its transit into Aquarius has been a big deal for me. It's opposing my stellium in Leo. So first it's hitting Mercury, and then Venus, then the Sun, and then Jupiter. And so it's going to be a 20 plus year cycle for me um, of opposing all of my planets. um, so it's been a huge deal in my life personally. I even named my cat Pluto when I adopted him on January 27th, the day of the Mars Pluto conjunction. We have since started calling him Meiyosei, which is the Japanese name for Pluto. It was just more fun to say, but there's a whole planetary theme going on with our animals. Um, at any rate, if you saw my last astrology video, it was on the Saturn retrograde. Um, and I suppose I like talking about the difficult transits. They can cause a lot of suffering, and I hate to see people suffer. Um, so I'd like to offer my insight if it can be helpful. Also, the retrogrades, they're a good time for reflection. So I suppose it's the natural time when I feel like talking about this stuff. Um, so as Pluto did its dance between Capricorn and Aquarius, and it began to aspect my Mercury, um, I began to feel a pull and a push for a radical change in my life. Um, so, as a Sagittarius rising, Mercury rules both my marriage house and my career house. And last June, I decided to close my business location that I'd had for almost 5 years in Fort Bragg, and also decided to end an almost 10-year relationship. Um, Now, I also have Uranus currently in my seventh house of marriage. So while Uranus also probably played a factor, I think even without Uranus there, I would have felt this need for this overhaul, this major transformation in my life. Um, Now, being in my daily practice to study charts, I had seen this transit approaching for, quite a while before it happened. And I didn't know exactly how it was going to manifest. I knew something was going to happen. I didn't know what. And then last June, it became very clear what I needed to do to move forward. So fast forward to fall, I made a video about the Saturn retrograde. Many of my clients were doubting decisions that they had made earlier in the year, specifically in the spring and summer. Many people had left their jobs, careers, long term relationships, and I wanted to reassure them that their doubts were due to the Saturn retrograde. Not everyone makes big decisions necessarily because of Pluto. We were also having Neptune, Saturn, Uranus, all changing signs at the same time. So it depends on your birth chart where it's affecting you. But whenever these outer planets change signs, usually, brings big change. I told all of my clients that after some big changes made last summer, they would feel pullback in the fall. And I said, don't worry, just make sure you get everything, pointed in the right direction before things start really moving forward again at lightning speed, which we're in that time now. So last summer, you got a preview of what's to come this summer. But that pullback in the fall was really difficult. So a lot of people were regretting their choices, wondering if they made the right ones. But I really feel like, if you did make some big changes early last year or early summer last year, that those will start to make sense now. But back to Pluto. The feeling that I have is that it's not so much about doubting changes made or decisions as it was with Saturn. It's more of a reflection on roads not taken and roads taken. So, we're talking about big roads, life-changing roads, and all the roads throughout your life that led to where you are now. If you're happy where you're at now, then all those roads might seem to make sense. And if you're unhappy, then it's a chance to reflect on those roads and new roads that you could start taking. So, Pluto can represent some very dark roads. What I've been meditating on lately are the dark but necessary roads that led me to where I am today. Even some very recent dark roads that I had to take. Now, because I study charts, I was prepared for these dark roads. In fact, there was one that I had to take last summer into the fall that I knew wouldn't be easy. But my higher self nudged me along. On paper, it seemed like the most illogical road that would surely end in disaster. In fact, I had many people persuading me not to take this road. And I knew that in many respects it would be, but my higher self said, no, you have to take this road. It went against all rationality, except of my higher self. My higher self knew what it was doing. It said, this is the right one. So I went with it, knowing it wasn't going to be easy. Reflecting back on it, I keep getting the image of a dark fairy tale forest. And there's only one road that goes through the forest, and you have to take it to get to the castle. And it's dark and it's treacherous and there's all kinds of pitfalls, but it's the only road to get through. So what's the saying? The only way out is through. And so, otherwise, what's the alternative? You could spend years walking around the forest, trying to circumvent anything uncomfortable. And then by the time you do get to the castle, maybe, if you even make it, maybe you're too tired or even forget why you were going to the castle in the first place. So sometimes you just have to go through the dark, scary woods to get to where you want to go. Um, and that's what Pluto represents. So what I'm trying to say is that if you have the courage to take the dark roads, you can learn a lot in a short amount of time. You just have to be prepared and know that it's going to be dark. For me, the dark road did end in disaster. But after that disaster, it opened up the new road, and then I was directly in front of the castle. Um, it wasn't pleasant, but it was necessary in the grand scheme of things. What the soul sees, but what the personality does not, is that road. And that's the best road I could possibly have taken. And and I have to say I was prepared. So I knew it was going to be difficult, but my higher self said, do it. This is the way through. So I went with it. And you know, another way of describing this, I like to think about our paths in life like I'm looking at an army of ants. Now I can pick out one ant and uh, watch it make its way through the army to get from one side of the counter to the other. Now I have a real ant problem where I live. In fact, my daughter and I, we never say the word ant in the house because we feel like if we say the word ant, more will come. So we actually call them the creatures. So now I've said it 3 times like Beetlejuice. I'm probably going to have more later this afternoon. At any rate, so I pick out one of the creatures and I watch it make its way. And, it doesn't know how it's going to get to the other side. But as I watch it, I can see the number of other creatures it's going to bump into. I can tell, what might be the best path for it. If it's going to go straight across, or if it's going to zigzag, or it's going to, circle around. But you can kind of apply that point of view to your higher self. Your higher self can see these roads that you're taking, and it knows how you're going to get to the other side, even though your personality does not. And so when we get those intuitions, those nudges from the higher self, it's an opportunity, to take that chance. And you just have to have some trust and faith in the process. And I'm very glad that I listened to my higher self and heard the calling and went for it. So because of the retrograde, if now is a time that feels heavy and depressing. It's been really gloomy here on the coast, so I've been feeling the heaviness. It's just a time to integrate the lessons learned and, lessons still to come. It's time to examine the road you are on. Are you currently on a dark road? Are you avoiding a dark road? It's a time to examine all the roads taken and not taken. And again, I'm talking about the bigger picture roads here. And remember to be kind to yourself. It's not easy here in physical reality. My advice is don't get bogged down in the past. Just try to reflect on it gently. This time may bring up all kinds of repressed desires, obsessions, addictions may resurface. Just go easy. And there's a heaviness that may bring up some unresolved feelings, roads not taken, risks not taken, unfulfilled desires, moments of sadness. It can be brutal, depression, but it can also feel quite cathartic. So perhaps even euphoric at times. I think it's the personality's attempt to integrate the wisdom of the higher self. You could say most people don't want to suffer unnecessarily, except I do see some people, looking at you Scorpios, who actually willfully bring it on, because the catharsis of transformation is the best drug there is. Now, when I say Scorpio, I mean somebody who has a lot of Scorpio, not necessarily Scorpio sun, could be Scorpio rising, or a lot of planets in Scorpio. Anyway, that kind of Plutonian energy, if you have Pluto aspecting a lot of your planets, you you might forcefully, willfully bring on dark roads in order to experience that transformation. Now, because your higher self, your soul knows the real reason behind it, in the suffering, and we have to trust that. Um, and you just have to have complete faith that that spirit has your back. Um, all right, so again, take it easy. We'll get through this time. It's a good time to integrate, and to release. And when Pluto turns direct again, that'll be a time for you to sort of set out on your path again, and see what change comes about. So that's all for today. If you liked my video, please be sure to like and subscribe. I'm really at the very beginning of this journey with making content, so every little like helps. Will also encourage me to share more. I offer many different services, such as astrology, of course, tarot, and dream work and psychic development consultations. You can find more about me and what I do on my website, loka.books.com. And yeah, I think that's it for today. All right, thank you and love you all.